to the Fit Dads podcast. I'm Brad Thompson. I'm joined by Ryan Dutton, and we're also joined today by Dave Ireson, the man behind Envisage. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, good. Thanks for having me.
Just Dave from Envisage.
Dave from Envisage.
That's what you know me as in Sheffield. But I think you probably, you must be, God, how many coaches in this city have you passed? If you had to put a percentage on it.
Percentage. Well, since we started in 2003, we think we've trained close to 7,000 fitness professionals. I don't know if you know, but we started off early on delivering all over the UK. We had contracts to go to like Isle of Wight and Aberdeen and places like that. But then as we got to family stages, we moved the business back, and for the last sort of probably 18 years, we've been local. So I would think the big majority, probably 5,000 plus in this area over 22 years.
That's unbelievable.
That's wild.
I mean, so many people I know in this city have done courses with Envisage. I've got a funny story, actually. I met up with Adam, I must have known over a year ago now, and we were just chatting, and he was mentioning how you started the name for the business. So you were driving somewhere, weren't you?
Yeah.
And you were just trying to wrap your brains, like, what should we call this business? And I think one of you just saw Envisage on the side of a lorry and just said, right, we're just going to go with that, Envisage, that's it. Yeah,
it was. I'd got the business plan. We'd got everything ready to launch, and we couldn't launch because I couldn't think of a name. And that's right. I was coming back from London. I was on the motorway, and then a truck went past, and the company wasn't called Envisage. It had a tagline saying "Envisage a future where." And I just thought, and I rung my dad straight away, and I said, "What does Envisage sound like?" And he just described straight away in terms of how he thinks it would relate to our business. And that's where we went from. Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, it's not something you hear in everyday language, but people know kind of the word and what it means.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool.
It's even nice if that's like your new surname now as well, like Dave
Envisage.
from Envisage.
Envisage,
There you go,
exactly.
Dave from Envisage. I mean, you mentioned where it started there, like going up and down the country. Like, why did you choose to start Envisage?
You may have heard the story before, but I was working for another training provider, the largest one at the time in the UK. And I'd worked for them for about 18 months and built up to being a senior tutor for them, delivering like gym, PT, sports conditioning, courses like that. But at the same time, I was running all the facilities at Sheffield Hallam. And I had this idea to set up courses at Hallam because I've got a good network. And I thought this could be like a sort of like a franchise opportunity that I could look at. So I put a plan together. I booked a meeting to see the CEO of the company that I was working for and presented it to him, and he listened and asked lots of questions. And then at the end of it, he just bluntly said no. He just said, and I went, why? And he just went, I just don't think you're good enough to do it. And, and that was just the juice that I needed. Mm-hmm. So I spent about 6 months. I went away, did business school on evenings, learned everything I needed to know about all the other side of it. Customers who were willing to work with me, and got it all set up, and then 6 months later I launched myself and went from there. He hated it,
and a big fuck you to the
yeah.
I love stories like that. People just said you can't do something. It's a little fire under your ass, like, you know what, I'm going to do this just to prove you wrong. Actually, I
was really gutted because I'd not really had failure before, and for somebody to say that to you, like, it really hurt. And I think we could have done really well, to be honest, but I waited until I was supposed to be teaching a course in Isle of Man. I think I was going to. I was supposed to be flying Friday till Sunday to teach a 3-day course. And I waited until the Thursday night and dropped my notice in then. And he was like, livid. Who's going to fly to there? And I just went, not me.
Love that. Brilliant.
No. So that's where it all started.
Amazing. Wow. So you were in the kind of education industry. Why did you want to do it by yourself though? Have you always been quite ambitious? Have you always been like, I want to have my own business eventually? What sparked that?
I didn't know. I really enjoyed working for that company. And I think even now, if I look at what I like best, it's the teaching side of things. I like being in a classroom. I like dealing with people. That's what I like to do.
You just mentioned you've come off the back of a menopause course, which is it's something that not a lot of blokes go and research. But and I found that story funny when you said you were in the hairdressers and they were all asking you questions. But it's something that isn't like talked about enough, and there's so many little parts of like fitness and health that just trainers in general and courses in general don't go into enough detail around. So for you as the kind of, the owner of Envisage, to be going around learning and expanding your knowledge on very specific topics is great for courses like yours. And are you going to put those things into the course? Is it some things you're going to kind of do separate to other kind of qualifications that you have?
Yeah, it will be separate. Yeah, to be a module on its own, a course on its own in its own right. I think you've got to be a gym instructor or personal trainer to come on to the sort of menopause course and come and do that. But yeah, I mean, I think we started delivering Pilates last year. And that's the only course that I've not done. Every course that we've ever launched in 22 years. No, I would. I
can see you in a bit of spandex.
Yeah. I passionately believe in that if it's your business, you need to. I mean, I'm not an expert on anything, I don't think, anymore. I have a good grounded knowledge of a lot of things. But I think as a business owner, if you're going to look at how to put new products, services into your business, either you or somebody you trust close has got to have a good understanding of that. It's hard to just put your trust in someone else and just say you run with it. They don't know how we do it at Envisage. They don't know like the ethos of what we're trying to do. So we're a little bit slower in terms of how we put things together, but we try to make sure that when it's done, it follows the pattern of how we want everything else to be taught.
Cool.
I feel like you're a great example, Dave, as someone who runs up the spine of the business in terms of anything that you decide to offer. You want to see how it works, how you can put Envisage's stamp on it.
Yeah.
And at the risk of blowing too much smoke, whenever I've done work for Envisage before, I know exactly the ethos that you guys run by, how you want feedback delivered, how you want assessments to be conducted. Yeah. Credit to you and the team.
Yeah, thank you. It's really everything we're about. We're probably not as big as we should be. We're probably not as ruthless as we should be in terms of growth and things like that. But our main core value is training people well for the industry and giving them the best possible chance. And that means spending a lot of time with individuals and offering extra support and all those sort of things. And by no means am I saying that we've got everything spot on. We still get feedback where people are unhappy with certain aspects, and we're constantly having to look at different venues where we deliver things, the amount of time that we spend over courses, the assessment processes, and that hasn't changed in 22 years. It constantly evolves and changes, and even more so now. I think we're in a stage now where learning is accelerating and changing more than it ever has. Absolutely. In my time that I've been doing it.
Yeah. What do you think, what message would you send to kind of people thinking about young, ambitious coaches who want to get into the industry now? What advice would you give them in terms of where they need to start?
I think attitude is the main thing in terms of making sure you do really want it. We try and screen people as much as possible. We get so many people who say this is my passion, but I think they just love training. I don't know if they actually want to be a coach and coach other people really well. So it's sort of cutting through that. Is it a hobby or is it a career path that you want to do? And if it is a career path, it's understanding all the different sort of facets of that, in that one, good knowledge, good coaching ability, but then understanding business side of things, being a good communicator, being a great people person, all those sort of things. That's really what you've got to do. And we see it almost immediately. Just from introductions on a course, straight away I'm starting to think this person's got it, just because of the way they carry themselves, the way they're asking questions, they're getting the work done on time, they're not leaving early, all those sort of things. And I think that's, in my opinion, everybody I know who's come through Envisage and gone on to being successful is probably just because they've worked really hard. You get your qualification, but most people can get that. It's then what you do with it. And
it's like most things, initiative, isn't it? It's showing that initiative to be like, this is one component of a really big picture that eventually is going to obviously lead to a career and hopefully be quite successful in. But I think you're right. So many people just love training and like the idea of it being part of their career and doing it day to day. But there's so many aspects that you can't really even like cover in one course, like from the business side of things to the accounts to complaints from clients, like professionalism and the service delivering, all the back catalogue of like information that's outside of sessions and support around that. It isn't just, I like training every week, how do I make this a job? And I quite like the idea of that. There's so many more components to being an actual really good coach.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fully agree. Is there any big paradigms that you see self-shift with new coaches? Like in terms of they come in, they do the course and they go, oh, I didn't expect that, or why am I doing so much A&P?
Yeah. I mean, it really is a mix. We get some who love A&P, we get some who say, why we got to do this, I don't understand. And they don't understand that in terms of progression, that if they haven't got that baseline knowledge, they're not then going to understand it at higher levels. So I fully understand that, the relevance of, what happens with HDL and LDL and arteriosclerosis, things like that, then that's not really everyday conversation that a PT is going to have with a client. But if you go down the exercise referral route and things like that, and you start working with a different variety of clients, then that's where you need that underpinning knowledge. So yeah, that varies from some people. Just remind me again, what was the question?
any sort of paradigms that you notice shifts from coaches? Like, do they come in thinking, I'm just going to do 8 hours worth of practical on this course, and then
some turn up without pens and paper. They just think they're going to be in the gym
doing push-pull legs.
That's it. Training, and I think we run over gym and PTs over 14 full days, and from what we've looked at, we're still one of the longest in terms of face-to-face delivery for that. But it's not enough. We have had to compromise to be able to compete in the market. Nobody wants to come in for 30 days and do that. So there's got to be some sort of balance. But yeah, people expect to be just in the gym more. They also think that when they're finished, that clients will just appear. You're like, I'm ready, where are you? And then they've got that realization that they've got to start building a business, and whether that is through either through a facility and looking at the means within that, or doing it yourselves. It's so I'm quite proud of our business unit that we do. I think we do a lot more than a lot of other companies do in terms of giving them an understanding of what they need to start and what the industry's like. But yeah, I think that's one of the dilemmas of the industry now, in that I think people think that all personal training courses are equal. So if you do one with us, it will be the same as doing it on an online course or whatever. But the reality is the new qualification that's coming out for gym PT, that is actually twice the size in terms of content and guided learning hours than some of the other ones that are still being offered. So they've got some PT products that are what we'll call a minimal viable product. It's at the minimum what you need to call yourself a personal trainer. But then you've got other ones that are double the size, contain lots and lots of really good information, but the public just don't know that. Yeah.
Why do you think the drop-off rate's so high in personal trainers from getting qualified to people leaving the industry?
Combination of things. Probably we hear a lot in the industry now of gym owners and things like that saying people aren't trained well enough, that they haven't got the skills required. They want more to be done in training in order to prepare them for that.
So are you speaking to gyms actively to try and get feedback and things like that?
Yeah, we have a network of gyms that we speak to. We are in a constant sort of gyms every 3 months. Have you got new PTs coming through? And I keep feeding back saying this is an issue. If you're getting in touch every 3 months to say that you need a new gym and a personal trainer, then there's something not quite right. So I think there is from the industry now, people are being rushed through, not trained properly. But I think the industry's got a part as well. I think it's paying the rent that they have to do quite early on, working for almost next to nothing. I think the reality is for a lot of people, especially in these times, people need an income. And they try for 2 or 3 months and then just realise that this is going to take a long time if I can establish. And we tell learners that on courses, you really need to give yourself 6 months. And a lot of the best people that I know who've been really successful struggled in the first 6 months. Nobody's walking into this and earning £30,000, £40,000 a year. we sort of said put some savings away, and if you can break even after 6 months and then build from there. So it is a sort of a unique industry. Nowhere else would you go, would you turn up and work 30 hours a week or whatever it's going to be and not take anything home. So yeah, it's the way the industry's gone, I'm afraid, and that's the expectation. But I don't know how sustainable it is long term, to be honest.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts. I think the industry at large is changing more so in the past few years than I've ever seen. I got qualified with you guys over 10 years ago now, and I didn't actually make what I made in my old job until nearly a year after qualifying. But I remember that feeling, though. It was a really nice feeling of like, oh shit, I just did the same money that a company was paying me, but I did that off my own back. I got qualified, I got my own clients, I marketed, I worked hard. It was a real sense of achievement. It kind of snowballed from there. But it isn't a quick fix, unfortunately. I mean, the people see, like, there's that famous quote, isn't it? Everyone wants the view, no one wants the kind of the journey. And I think when you get to the top, it's easy to kind of, be there, everyone sees that and wants to that kind of life. But when you realise what it takes, it is quite a daunting prospect for a lot of young PTs, and that's where resilience and grit comes in. I think maybe it's kind of more the younger generation as well, not wanting to kind of stick things out. Maybe it's the kind of instant gratification society we live in now, where maybe not enough people are kind of just sticking it out, sticking with it.
But I think you're going to fall into a couple of categories, really. I think if you are a young person, you're living at home, you've got no rent, mortgage, things like that, you can probably make a go at it and give it that time. The other one is that you've been fairly successful, you've managed to put a bit of savings away, and then you can give it time to grow. But I think anybody in the middle, where they need to be earning a monthly income to pay rent, mortgages, bills, things like that, it's not an attractive one to look at. But I mean, I'm picking on some of the negatives there. I think, as you said, once you do build it up and you've got that job, I think it's one of the best jobs in the world in terms of like just training people. I mean, it's why I do what I do. I mean, it's a little bit similar, but I love being in the gym, teaching people all the training methods and things like that. It's just great fun, great environment to be in. You change people's lives, but it's that understanding. And I think now we see a lot of people that are coming in wanting to like dip the toe. They're doing it part-time, so they've got another job, and they're saying, can I do like a weekend, or can I do some evenings and just try and build up a bit of a business before then they take the plunge and go for it. But again, it's hard because a lot of these gyms are just saying it's £500-600 a month rent, and that doesn't help anybody who just wants to try and build the business slowly. So that's why it becomes difficult. But most of our learners now are wanting to set up on their own. We're not getting many that are actually looking at going to the big chains and
that's
things.
Good.
It's a huge, and again, I've fed this back to all of them, all the major players. But I think that's a big change in the last sort of 3 to 5 years.
10 years ago, like I said, that was the main avenue. You go to your Pure Gym, you go to, I think, JD wasn't really a thing, that was like exercise for less.
Yes.
Yeah.
You go there and you just apply for a job, basically. And I remember going to Pure Gym, because I actually wanted to set up by myself. And I remember a lot of people on the course like, what gym are you going to work at? I'm like, I've got some weights at home and I'm just going to do it in a turning circle outside my house. And they're like, what? That's wild. But I actually knew a guy who'd done something similar, so I knew it was possible. And there was a moment, maybe in the first 4 or 5 months, where it was tough. Like, I didn't really have any savings when I set up, and I was scraping by every month, and then it took a little bit of a downward spiral. I remember going to Pure Gym in the city centre and saying, can I have a job, basically? I'm a personal trainer, I want to work in. Like, first month's £400, and then you'll kind of, we can maybe negotiate that after kind of a few months. I was like, well, I've got 3 clients. I can't pay me rent. I mean, flat, let alone pay you £400. So I think it was probably more that stubbornness. I was like, no, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put myself in that compromising position. Didn't want to go and borrow money off all sorts of people. So I just stuck it out, and thank God it worked out. But it doesn't for everyone, and I totally appreciate that.
No. I think it's important to know that there's numerous ways to do it. Yeah. Have you got a favourite success story from your time at Envisage? Because I appreciate. How long have you been going now?
Yeah, 22 years. 22 years, yeah. I mean, as you said, you two yourselves, very successful. doing great things. And we talk a lot about ex-students on the courses. You've had Mick Blythe on.
We have, love Mick.
Yeah, I mean, Lee Bell did the courses with us. And
also, Lee actually did his own course with you guys.
Yeah, he's done a number of courses,
love that.
Yeah, and he was on with, do you know Chris Mason? Chris Mason, so he was on the same course as Chris.
Wow.
Look at how well Chris is doing. Loads. I mean, it's great to see. And we've got some people who've gone to work at Ultimate Performance. They've gone working in Hong Kong in Ultimate Performance. But I mean, we're only the first part of the journey. They've got something within them that then makes them want to be successful. But I don't know. I think some of my favourite ones are the ones that, do you know, like I say, when you start at the start of the course and you sort of know who you think's going to make it, but every now and again somebody surprises you, where I've looked and thought, they are not going to do this at all.
You've got to name names now, mate. Who did you have no hope in? You actually pulled it out the bag.
I wouldn't do that to him, but he's done really well, and he came back and did lots of different courses. I think he got a bit of a past. He got into a bit of trouble. He was like gobby on the course and disruptive, and I was just like, oh God, this lad. But I see him now, and you know, he's done so well, and I like that side of it as well. We'll give anybody an opportunity, but I like those stories.
People grow up and mature as well, don't they? So, like, I mean, God, I was the class clown when I was a kid, and I'm sure all my teachers said to me or say them to me about what you said to them. But I do think it's nice to see so many different paths in this industry. It's not quite as easy and as simple as just working in the mainstream gym. There's so many other options now, which I guess kind of leads me to my next question about obviously the online world and how massive this is getting now. And I get guys coming to me. Literally last week, I had a guy message me saying, same thing. I love exercise. I love training. It's a big part of my life and lifestyle. I want to make it into a career. I'm thinking about going just with the online route. What's your suggestions? I know you do some of that stuff. And every single time I would say, get qualified. Make sure you know your stuff. Make sure you've got some qualification under your belt, just from an insurance point of view, just from a education point of view. You might think you know it all after maybe doing it 5-6 years, but there'll be a lot on the courses that you don't know. What's your thoughts around the online world now? Yeah,
it's challenging. We're under a lot of pressure. Even qualifications are designed now under the presumption that most people are going to be doing them online. So little changes now that, you used to have to be competent at things like fitness testing. So can you take somebody's blood pressure? Can you do body fat calipers or bioelectric impedance and stuff like that? A lot of that stuff's gone now, because how do you do that online? People aren't going to buy all this stuff themselves, are they? So I think there's been, I mean, it reflects the industry a little bit. Maybe that stuff's not done as much anymore. But no, it's a huge challenge. We have done online courses. We've looked at different models of how you do them, and I don't know, we have to be sort of objective with it, in that we're at an age where we haven't grown up doing this, and it seems quite alien to us to learn that way. And I think a lot of the things that you get on a course in terms of building a network of people, listening to other people's stories, other people's experiences, we've had people who've trained together and then built businesses together because of who they've met on a course and stuff. And I think a lot of the online stuff misses that, but it is here. I can't see it going anywhere. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. For us as a business, it's how we look at adapting that into what we do. So we will look to do a bit more blended in terms of what can you do, but we can't fully work out how to make somebody a good coach if they're not in. If you're not, yes, they can take a video and they can send it in, but the moment's gone. Are they doing that technique right? What feedback do they need at that time, and those sort of things? I know a lot of companies that are doing it. They'll say that they do this, and this, but the reality is it's too expensive. Online training should probably be more expensive than in person, because if you've got 20 people all sending in our videos of me training and you've got to look at that, that's not happening. You'll look at snippets and give them little bits of feedback, but it's just watered down because it would be too expensive and too time consuming. So we designed one course. We run a level 2 strength and conditioning qualification. It's like an introduction to strength and conditioning. but that's been designed specifically for the fire service. So the fire service have to do fitness tests, they have to be at a certain fitness level, and they want to invest in their sort of training. So that's our first sort of punt of it. And it has gone really well. We've trained quite a few people that way. We try and give regular support, talk people through, and then we do insist on going in on the last day and doing the practical sort of things in person. And 95% of the feedback is that when we do that day, they say, I wish you'd have been in all the way through the course. But it's just a balance now. People feel that they haven't got time. People have got busy lives, and it's just a balance, I'm afraid.
I think COVID changed a lot of that, didn't it? It opened the world to things are possible online, and there's more avenues to do that. But I mean, even in our jobs, we've seen obviously people wanting to be coached more online, and it still is a bit of a kind of a sketchy part of the industry at the moment, where I think guys are, like I said, just getting qualified. Well, just basically saying they want to do it, maybe having a little bit of experience in the gym themselves. They'll, rather than go and get qualified, they'll pay like a business coach now. See these business coaches online, and then they'll start cold DMing people, getting massive amounts of people that don't really know how to coach, which delivering really poor service. But I think it'll come full circle. I think people will go back to, you know, the one-to-one stuff, and we're already seeing that. I know a lot of people I'm speaking to already who went online and now going back to one-to-ones. And I think maybe in the kind of culture, so the training world as well, people might start doing the same. But like, actually, it probably is better if I go and I have a course where I can go and sit down with someone, they can coach me and they can actually tell me what I need to do to be the best coach I can be. I do think it'll come full circle.
We go round and round with it, really. But I can't see how it will change. I just see the online getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, I do. If you look at number of registrations for qualifications, massively, in terms of the online companies are just doing way more than a lot of in-person companies are going bust because they're not getting enough on a course. So you've got to listen to what the demand is. We're in a unique situation in that everybody comes to us because they want face-to-face, and we've been going long enough that we've got a good enough reputation, I think, that people know about us. I think for anybody who's trying to start now doing face-to-face, they're going to struggle. So it's a really challenging market, but I think it is here to stay. It's how we integrate it and make it the best it can be. But there's certain courses like, you know, business units, nutrition, even menopause, stuff like that. There's not really much practical element to it, so it can be done in bite-sized chunks. I just think it's a shame that people don't get the softer skills from being on a course, you know, being confident to be. If we have people who've done a level 2 gym online and then they said it didn't really work for them, so they'll come and do PT with us, and they can't coach, they can't talk. You know, you'll say like, can you just do a small group training for me? And they're like, 3 people, and I haven't had to do this before. And it's just like, well, you know, this is the job. And and I just think a lot of the time it's, you know, filmed with family members, you know, doing a little circuit in garden with somebody who, that's how people end up doing their assessments and stuff, but it's not realistic. So
I always try and say that about the level 2, that it's not just a box tick. It is actually, these are foundational skills that you need to sort of build on from a level 3 perspective. And I really wish that a lot of other learners would probably take it that way and see it that way. I think to put a little bit of pressure on maybe clients and consumers who are going to be invested in these coaches, I'd be asking for certificates. I want proof that I'm in good hands. I want to see your insurance just in case I get injured. I want to see that you're qualified, to see that you're actually you know, reasonably good at what you do and that you've got that backing behind you. Do you think that could maybe happen with clients one day?
I think so, but again, it's if you're doing a minimal viable product of the shortest version of an online PT course, who knows the difference? You're still going to have a certificate that is through a recognised awarding body. It may be SIMSPA accredited and things like that. So I really do, but I don't think, from what we see, a lot of those are really successful. You know, like we've talked about before, it's those that really invest and say, I'm going to do this, and then my next step is this, and this. I'm going to continue to learn and educate and get mentors and all those sort of things. So I still think the right people come out at the end. I think there's a lot of people who are underwhelmed with what they get in terms of the other types of training.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I really do. I think those that want to be the best coach in the industry and want to go far with it, build the best businesses, are the ones who will actually go out their way to do one-to-one on training as opposed to the online stuff. I couldn't ever have imagined. I mean, the amount of things I learned in those classrooms, interacting with other like members and people who were on the course who almost like were brave enough to say questions that I didn't want to ask as well sometimes. Like that was really useful for me. It was. It wasn't just the practical stuff, it was the classroom stuff, being in person that you would maybe think could be better online, that actually I learned a lot from.
And like I said, online can work for a lot of that stuff. So, you know, you could conversely say these companies will be saying that, well, you can have a one-to-one appointment and ask all the questions you want. You can email those in, you'll get responses and those sort of things. But I think the reality is that how are they doing that for such a cheap price? And the big reality is that they'll not be as much. There are, I can think of 2 or 3 companies online that are reasonably expensive. And I know that behind the scenes have got a team of really good staff that will do all that, but they struggle because as soon as you start comparing the prices of what they're doing online to another one that's charging at like a third, people just think, oh, I'll do that one. So even though the intent there is to do it really well,
you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And everything.
I think so.
Yeah. And it's the Amazon business model. We want it fast, we want it quick, and we want it cheap.
Yeah.
And I think that's overlaid into every industry, not just coaching, training. It's everything, isn't it?
I agree.
What is it you really love about the in-person stuff, Dave? Because I love getting these moments where you see people come alive, and I can sort of see by the online stuff that it's a bit more, I don't know, maybe in your eyes that you think, in-person's where it's at. What is it about the in-person stuff that you say?
I mean, introductions are great. Start the course, listening to everybody's different backgrounds, and you can just see people like straight away, like, you know, this person's lost 10 stone in weight, it's changed their life, they want to then go on and help other people. I've had a personal trainer and they've made me feel the best I can be, I want to do that now. So you hear all these stories and it's just nice how they all integrate. We're so lucky on our courses. We always, for a joke, always say as part of the introduction that we have a bit of a no-knobhead policy. And we just want people to be grown. I mean, people are paying a lot of money to come on these courses, and generally, everybody gets on really well. They make good relationships and support each other. So all that sort of stuff is really good. But my favourite parts about teaching really is, like, you know, when that penny drops, you know, when so many people come in and think they know how to train and they're just not training right at all. The intensities are not right. You know, they're not understanding the systems or the methods as they should be. And once they get that realization that, like, oh God, I've been wasting years doing it this way. I think that's, for most people who come on, that's the reality. They learn how to train themselves better first. And until you can do that, I don't think you can really train anyone else. We do a thing where we question people at the start of the course, and we say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in your current knowledge of personal training? And from 1 to 10, 1 low, 10 high, and so many people are putting 9s. Like, and I know pretty much loads already. I've been training for years. And what's interesting then is that halfway through the course, we ask them the same question, and a good number of those people then say, I'm at a 4, because they've realised what they don't actually know. And that's I like that. I mean, it's hard for us in terms of an Ofsted and stuff like that when they say, why are they regressing? And it's like, well, it's just a realisation that, but other sort of like sort of questions that we ask on there that we're looking at things like, what's your confidence levels like? What you like working with another person? What you like working in a group? What you like public speaking? And they're the other sort of softer skills then that we try and then work on to improve confidence in a whole range of areas, really. Yeah.
I think that's something that I've always said is difficult to coach as well. It's confidence, it's like charisma, it's people skills. Some people just have that in abundance, and you'll notice that on the course, and people come in and they're very confident, and then you have those that maybe are like the kind of nerdier ones, maybe, who really know what they're talking about, phenomenal when they hand the papers in, but you can just tell from a hands-on practical point of view they've not got those same skills. And the best coaches have both of those, really. And they may not have them naturally, but they develop both of those over time.
We do get some people who are very well experienced do get through the qualification without much problems, but most people still learn something and develop. But you're right, we get some people who can like blag a class. They don't really know a lot, but they're so confident in what they're doing and energetic and stuff. It becomes a little bit infectious. But you're like, right, we just need to refine that a little bit now and learn the technical stuff a little bit more. And then, like you said, we've got other people who know all about anatomy and physiology, understand the body, but just don't have that confidence to talk and put it out there. So everybody comes with different needs and skills to be developed, and that's our job then to look at that. Who do we partner you with? How can we make your journey through this course maximal for getting you to where you need to be?
It's funny actually hearing you talking about so many of the components of the course that I've actually not even thought about in 10 years, and it's got me thinking about how much of my own service still to this day is based on what you guys taught in that course. Like the amount of people I take on as new starters, and we do session 1, which is a bit of an assessment, and they go, Ryan, I've had 3-4 personal trainers. No one's ever done this with me. No one's ever given me like a posture correction. No one's ever done flexibility, mobility, see where I am, how I'm moving, what might be an issue with my biomechanics. No one's ever done this. And that was all stuff that you guys taught in terms of assessing a client in kind of basically their first session. And I think a lot of coaches as well will probably just poo-poo that a little bit as well. But we don't need to do that. Like, I'll just watch them squatting a little bit and see how they get on. But I like to be thorough, and I think that was from your teachings for sure.
Yeah, I think so. So many different types of clients and goals, isn't there? But I think ultimately part of the job is making people move better, their sort of functional ability and things like that. And without assessing that and understanding where they're at, and again, we've all got limitations in terms of what we can't do. But it's so easy just to integrate that into a regular program, isn't it?
True. I mean, how on earth can you write a program for someone without seeing them move?
Yeah.
It's a bit like, what does this person need? What's the needs analysis and all that stuff? If it's all right, Dave, I just want to share a story about I shadowed you on a PT course a couple of months ago, must have been last year. And you talk about that penny drop moment. I actually had one watching you where I think you said to someone, right, who can't touch the toes? And someone were probably like mid-shin. And no joke, Ryan, in 5 minutes, Dave got this girl touching her toes just from all sorts of like physiology and like manipulation of fascia. And I think that for me, that little penny drop moment, you don't really get that online in particular. So it's quite nice to see you.
I think you're right. All those little, I mean, we constantly going about it in the office. Laura's always telling me and Adam off because we just go off on tangents, and that's some of the nice things about, you see somebody in a course and they're like, why am I feeling like, and you're like, let's do a little bit of an assessment, right? Can you do this? Can you do that? And everybody's like, do you need to know this for a course? And we're like, not really, but it's like interesting. This is a real life of what you do. And I think that often then inspire, like, how do you learn that? Well, you've got to go through the levels. You've got to get this, and then you might want to go into sports therapy, you might want to go into exercise referral or strength and conditioning. But you can't learn everything just on that one course. But we always try and show what potential there is, how far you can go. Because, like you say, you can just help so many people then.
They're the magic moments, I think, on the course. They really were. And I remember so many of those, whether it was Mick or Lee, when they would just kind of stop and say, right, this isn't part. They would actually actively say, this is not part of the course. You will not get tested on this. But let's just discuss this for a second. It's a really, really good point. And I like the fact that it was like an open discussion. Like they almost came in there with the attitude of like, the science will back things up, but what is your practical experience with this? Like, have you in your own training found this? Okay, if so, why? Let's discuss it. Like, who else has found this? And it was almost like a debate in some sessions, which I absolutely loved. I really did.
And again, debating skills and building that confidence that we talked about. Are you confident in a group putting your point forward? Have you got the respect to listen to somebody else and what they're saying, and be able to debate back in the right sort of way? These are all the sort of things that if you're going to go into the workplace and stuff like that, again, we talk about these softer skills. They're the sort of things that I think a lot of people benefit from, not just the training.
Without doubt. I think it's in the job title, personal and trainer. I feel like a broken record saying this, but when you're looking at hiring, obviously you shouted out like Adam and Laura there as well. Do you look from being a really sound person? Because that's the number one bit of feedback I get from people who I come in contact with or I assess, that everybody's sound. Or do you look for people who are really good trainers and then try and polish them up?
Let's see, a bit of both, I would suppose. I have to have a feeling about the person. For me personally, I've got to trust him with everything. With Adam, I taught Adam I did a stint at college, teaching at Dearne Valley College, and Adam was one of the students. And again, a bit of a lad, good footballer, but intelligent. And then I saw him progress and do our courses, and he got a job as a manager at Dearne Valley College in the gym. And just the way that he could handle people, and calm situations and make people feel good about themselves and stuff like that. So for Adam, he'd got good knowledge, but it was the people skills that I wanted. So I just went straight in and just said, come and work for me. But he'll put his hand up himself. There's a story that, when he did his first anatomy and physiology lecture, it was just an absolute disaster. And, we laugh about it now. I think most of us did when we first started teaching. But the journey he's been on now, he's an outstanding teacher now, coach. And with Laura, I was on a interview. They asked me to go and do some interviews somewhere, and Laura was just on the panel interviewing. And just the way that she was asking questions and probing and all those sort of things. So afterwards, we're like, who is she? What does she do? Mm-hmm. And just followed her for a couple of months. And then she got no fitness background. She played sport, but she was a complete opposite. I just liked the personality. And then she's come in again, done all the courses, built up her education, and again, a really good coach. Yeah. I think everybody who works for Envisage has done a course. So I've always had eyes on them first and see the person. And
it's a good filtration system, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I guess even I remember thinking at the time when I did my course, Mick was just in the process, I think, setting up his gym. And I think quite a lot of the people that he's got working for him now have come through Envisage. Yeah. And there's no doubt that he's seen them train, like the look of them, and gone, if you ever want a studio's place or a studio to train in, place to train your clients, we can provide that. And there was Chris Chapman. Mm-hmm. He had a business, Pulse.
Yeah.
And he offered me a job after my level 2.
Yeah.
He pulled me and another girl aside in the class and just said, look, we have a company where we're going to care homes. And that was actually a bit of a lifesaver for me when I was setting up my personal training business, being able to kind of go and work with him on the side whilst I was developing. Yeah. And that was all because of Envisage. And just one of the trainers, teachers had his own business, and that kind of grew pretty big. And then I think didn't in the end. But again, another tough industry, but great to kind of learn what the capabilities and limitations are after a certain point. I would never coach anyone really in their 80s. Like, it just wouldn't. No one is going to come to me as a personal trainer in my early 20s and say, I'm 80 years old, what do I do? But that was such a fascinating journey going to care homes and seeing some people in like the late 90s and they're up and about, they're throwing balls around, and some people in the early 70s hooked up, gammy arm, haven't done anything, just given up basically on their body. Yeah. It really gives you an insight into kind of how important it is from a health point of view. Not from getting people in shape, not from training. Squatting's great, deadlifting's great, we love all that stuff. But down the line, when you get to 70, 80, what have you done in the last 20, 30 years to really keep you in good nick internally? And I saw that at face value. It was great.
Definitely, yeah.
I've actually had eyes on the inside of Envisage. When Amy had Ted, our little boy, she said, I want to do something for myself. So she went on a level 2 course with Envisage. And one of the key things that she said to me is, I'm going to work really hard because I don't want to let Laura down.
Right.
And I don't know if you felt like this, Ryan, in your course, but whenever I've done anything with Envisage, I just think I feel like I can't fail at this. So I have to execute it to perfection. Because what's Mick going to think? Yeah. I'm here and I'm going to be teaching clients, like general public. I feel like I need to do a good job.
Yeah.
And that's testament to you guys, I think.
Yeah, I think, again, it comes back to the right people who inspire, who stand in front of you. They've all been, or most of them, have been through the same journey, whether it's, Adam Taylor for sports massage therapy, he's run his business and he's got great experience and good stories and things like that. The lads who teach strength and conditioning, one's works for UK boxing, the other one's worked in professional football. They've all... That's what the learners really like. And I think they buy into that. This is a really good person in front. They're giving up their time. They want us to do well and work that way. I think we have one of the highest pass rates but not in that sort of like, I've gone to some websites and you've got an online company that says that 99.8% of everybody pass. And I'm just like, really? Just like every course, every time, 99.8% pass. And we'll be upfront and say we average between sort of 91 and 95. And we have to be like honest with that and say some people come in and they have a personal problem, they can't finish, they might have made a big mistake and thought this is not for me, and there are the realities of it. But anybody who actually wants to do it, we will work hard to keep working with them to get them through. So again, it's one of those things that people will say, oh, they've got a much higher pass rate, and it's just like, it's just made up, it's not real.
I'd see it as a challenge. If you came to me and said, like, well, the pass rate is only 60%, I'd be like, right, you know what, I'm in that 60%. I don't care what it is. I'd be more appealing. It'd be more appealing if it was like an 85, 90% pass rate than like a 98, because I can't fail. Basically, it doesn't matter really
That's
what
it says, doesn't it?
Yeah. I agree.
As an assessor, Ryan, it is horrible when you have to refer people. And that's one thing I've always noticed with Envisage, that you do it with grace, with feedback.
Yeah.
And it's horrible, Ryan, because you can see someone's put their absolute heart into it, and you think, or sometimes not.
Yeah.
I've failed a few with it. I've
just
maybe
not done the work.
just not done the work. Yeah. And it's they're probably the easier ones to refer on.
And I think you speak to every assessor, they all remember the first fail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how difficult that was. I remember mine. Mine was I was working in Bolton, and I was assessing a bodybuilder who was massive. And I had to refer him, and I said, oh, you've referred because of this, and this, and he went, no, I haven't. And I said, well, you have, and this is the criteria. And he went, I'm not going till you pass me. And he just sat staring at me. And, and then I said, I'm going to start my next assessment. And he just followed me, and he was just walking around.
Wow.
So that was a really intimidating one. That was my first one. I was like, going to like the lead assessor saying, what do I do? And he's like, he's massive, I don't know.
Give him the paper, then. Give him the paper.
So you always remember. And it's horrible to refer someone, but often those people then go on to become really good because the only reason you're referring is that they don't quite meet the standard, and they go away and they nail it. They get that feedback, and I think failures is important. I think where I am is because of like my major failures in life and how you respond to that. So it shouldn't always be a negative. It's how you bounce back from it.
Are you happy talking us through a few of those in terms of maybe a few failures that you've bounced back from?
Yeah.
Any ones that stand out?
Yeah. So first one would be A-levels. Yeah. I coasted through everything, through school, and was successful. And then when I got to college, it wasn't for a negative reason. I was doing like lifeguard qualifications, and I was like doing all my windsurfing and all this. I was a badminton coach, a squash coach. I've always been a nerd and just done loads, and it detracted from what I should have been studying. And I crashed and burned. My predicted grades were like B's, and I got like a DDE.
And that was in college?
I was in college, yeah. So I didn't get what I needed to go to the uni that I wanted to do. But I took a year out. I went abroad, had a year in Canada, and came back and redid them. And got what I needed to do then, and then moved on. So that was my first one. Second one would have been the training provider one, where they said, no, you're not good enough. Another life lesson there. They're the two major ones for me, which again, either one of those you could fall back and regress and say, oh, this is not for me, or you can believe in what you think you're capable of and get on with it.
They make you or break you, don't they? Those moments. They do. You go away, you fester on it a little bit, and there's always that sense of like feeling sorry for yourself a little bit, but then there's that like this won't break, but this won't be the end of me and what I want to do and where I want to go.
Where would you say that resilience comes from you, that bounce back?
I think again, just having good teachers and mentors when I was younger. I'm still in touch with my PE teachers now from school.
Wow.
They were role models. College teacher, again, they're all like PE and things like that. When I went to Canada, I worked under a PE teacher in a school there, and he was a great mentor as well. And I just think if you're around those sort of people where work hard, anything's possible, give it your best, and believe in yourself, it rubs off, doesn't it? And I think that's part of the problem now, in that not enough people have that. They're unfortunate that they're in situations where they don't have that network around them. But
especially from a male perspective as well. I just think having those people around you who have maybe they are where you want to be, or they've got traits that you really admire.
I think I've got 2 girls, and I want exactly the same for them. You know, like Laura works on me. They come into work sometime, they see what Laura does, and you know, my wife's a great example and works hard and does things in the right way and done lots of different careers, and nothing stops her. You've got to have those people in your life.
What does your wife do at the moment, career-wise?
So my wife has compromised actually quite a bit, in that I'm not putting it in a negative way, but since my daughter got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, she's caring mum first. So she actually works at the school that my daughter goes to, just in the sort of dinners and stuff like that. But what she actually does now is any kids that have got any sort of allergies and medical needs and stuff like that, she's very good at looking after all that. But what we always wanted to make sure is that the school understood the needs of my daughter, and she can communicate that because she's there. So yeah,
I like your wife's style there.
Yeah.
Get myself integrated. They can't fuck it up then.
Yeah. She's really good and sorts all that. And like I said, she's helped a lot of other people with any kid that's got type 1 in the school. She sorts all their, you know, she understands carb counting and what you're having and injections, so she can do all that. But she's become a bit of an expert on allergies and
a real asset to the school.
Well, yeah, because like myself and my daughter are celiac as well. So not only is it looking after what she needs from a carbs point of view, but then making sure that the food's safe as well.
Wow, so she's diabetic and celiac.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, you do to find with some who've got autoimmune disease that once they get one, they may get another one. So she was diagnosed when she was 3 with type 1 diabetes, and then I think she was about 6. She got diagnosed with celiac, and it was only through Thea being diagnosed with celiac that then I found out that I was celiac. So I was asymptomatic. I was having damage to my insides, but didn't have any symptoms at all.
Okay.
And that wouldn't have happened until it was too late. But then once Thea got diagnosed, the GP said everybody in the immediate family should be tested. And then I got the call saying, you need to come in, you need to have the tube down. yeah, it was. So yeah, we have to manage all that.
So you spend a lot of time in the freeform aisle.
Yes, spending a fortune.
Yeah. I think not enough people are aware of that, though. Are they, like the allergies they've got and those little conditions?
I think a lot think they've got IBS when I think it's underdiagnosed. I think the stats are about maybe 1 in 50 in this country. I think maybe have got celiac. And yeah, I mean, it's not good. You have to live your life in a certain way, but it's not unmanageable. Yeah. And I think a lot of the stuff it does is, a lot of the positives is you don't just go to McDonald's, you don't just go to Greg's and stuff like that. You can't just eat all that stuff. You've got to plan and know what you're having. So from that point of view, the only difficulty is just spontaneity. You can't just go away for a weekend and rock up at a cafe and say, I'll have this. You need to know where you're going, what it is. But we had a little bit of planning and stuff like that.
But you probably feel better as a result, I imagine, since the diagnosis.
I mean, yeah, I was asymptomatic, but when I look back now, I was struggling. I was really lethargic. Obviously, weren't getting the nutrients I was needing. Tired all the time, lots of stomach ache and things like that. But you just put it down to, you know, whatever, don't you, and brush it off. But once I made that change, that was it. And the interesting one with that was I had to stop, and for no other reason that some of the factors that around that time happened, I had to stop drinking caffeine just to sort of like reset everything. And that was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that I had that much caffeine. I probably like one of these sort of like 4 or 5 cups a day. And that was like instant and stuff like that. Nothing major. Maybe like we'd go for like a Costa once a day or something like that. But for 9 days, I thought I was going off crack cocaine. I was just like headaches and all sorts. So yeah, I've been 5 years off off that now as well.
That's good.
Yeah,
Really good.
and I think it's just one of those things in that caffeine's not bad. Some people can have a coffee before going to bed in it. It doesn't affect them at all. But if it does affect you,
For sure.
Yeah.
It's just knowing how it does affect you, and I resonate a lot with what you've just said. I've got an autoimmune disease, and it's rubbish. You have to be very, very aware.
What have you got?
Something. Well, it's rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh, okay.
Which and there's certain foods that are quote unquote healthy. Like avocado will set me off. All sorts of random bits will set me off.
Really?
That mushrooms, garlic, just things that you go, why on earth? And that literally comes from elimination.
Yeah.
As you'll know, just stripping it all back.
Yeah.
And
have you had a big flare up with that then? Have you?
It can do. It's quite, like you said, it's quite closely linked, autoimmune stuff. So the psoriasis symptoms, the IBS sort of stuff, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And you have to be very, very aware.
I've just had a moment now where I just realised that my dad was hospitalised when he was a teenager with rheumatoid arthritis. And I've only just realised the link now that he's giving it me. He's giving me it's his fault, isn't it? Yeah. That's the autoimmune trait.
What age was he when he got hospitalised?
Young. If I remember, he was about 9 and he was in for about 3 or 4 months in hospital.
Wow.
And then just as my mum had my brother, he had a second bout and had to go back in hospital again, which was not good timing. But I think he had another month then, and he's never had anything since. Yeah.
So he must have cracked at what it was that was maybe
issue. I think it can just flare up, can't it?
Yeah. Just annoyingly, just like you can get stressed about it, and then the stress can flare it up, but you're stressed about the flare up. So it's this horrible cycle, as you'll know from your daughter and yourself as well, and it's very annoying. And I think it's nice that people can discuss that and understand it. And I've struggled with it with all my nutrition knowledge and nerdy brain and research and stuff. And I think there's people out there living with stuff who just don't get tested, don't look inwards, don't consider the food that they're eating. You mentioned briefly about your daughter who's type 1. How has that affected your life? I know we spoke about sleep briefly.
Yeah, it's for any parent of a type 1, it's a huge game changer. I mean, when she was 3, we had to finger prick every time she had something to eat or drink. So as a 3-year-old trying to click on her finger and take a blood supply and stuff like that and measure, it was awful. She just screamed every time. Every time we got her a needle, she screamed. I think I told you before that she's had over 30,000 needles now in her 9 years. But it saves a life. A lot of people just say, I don't know how you do it. It's like, well, you have to do it. There's no other way. So, but like anything, you adapt and life changes a little bit, but she does everything everybody else does. It's just that we have to monitor a little bit more, plan a little bit more, get up a little bit more in the night and treat and those sort of things. But technology is amazing. Things are getting so much easier. But she's 12 now nearly 12. And it's just amazing now that, she's making a packed lunch for school and she can carb count it all. At 12, she knows how many grams of carbs in a slice of bread. She knows what's in an apple. She knows how many grapes equal what carbs. And, the school are just saying, from a health point of view, she's way ahead in terms of understanding her own health and what she needs to do to keep safe and things like that. So I have a little bit of a wish that she'll go into this sort of thing. Maybe she'll support people with type 1 or, work in that sort of environment because she's brilliant at it.
A couple of questions. I guess the first one, just from a parent point of view, is what were the first symptoms that you knew something wasn't right, I guess, in your daughter?
Again, just like mum skills again. She'd started urinating more frequently and was getting more thirsty. Okay. My wife just took a urine sample herself and just dropped it off at the doctor's and said, I don't know if she's got a water infection or something like that. Can we just check? And then they got back in touch a couple of hours later and just said she needs to go to hospital now. Wow. So my wife actually caught it earlier than a lot of people, because the danger is if it goes on too long and blood sugar sticks up high, you can go into diabetic ketoacidosis. So, but she still had 5 days in hospital to try and manage it and get used to it and things like that. Okay. So, it's...
But there was no symptoms before. Did it come on quite quickly? Was it in the space of a week, 2 weeks, or was it over a few months you noticed these differences?
No, I mean, if you look at sort of data and stuff like that, a lot of diabetic cases are somewhere between sort of November and March, like the big percentage are in that time, and it usually coincides with like
Christmas.
No, it coincides with like an illness. So if you've had like a flu or something like that, they think that maybe that triggers something in the autoimmune system. So there's something ridiculous, like 100% of people in a year, like 70% are in that short time period.
Interesting.
But there are other people who get it. I mean, a teacher is at school. I think he's in his late 20s and just got diagnosed. No reason why. Autoimmune, that's what it is, isn't it? It just decides to attack its own cells. So, yeah.
Question 2 was, you touched on your daughter understanding food and the numbers and things like that. Really big topic now amongst young people and like obsessions around food. Do you ever worry that it might kind of get a bit out of control? Is it something you're worried about at all, or you're kind of almost encouraging that?
No, I think, like I said, as a family, we eat as celiacs. My wife and eldest daughter, whenever they go to a restaurant or if they're on their own, they have whatever. But we made a choice that way because there were 2 of us to try and make 2 different meals all the time, and things like that was hard. So, we adapted that way, and we just try and follow as much as possible a normal, regular diet. And just like everybody else, really, we want it to be healthy and eat healthy and have that balance, but not be restrictive, because I think that can lead to problems later on in life. So she's 12. If she wants an ice cream, she can have an ice cream. We just need to give her the insulin for it and make sure that works that way. So, I don't think she has enough to cope with without anything else on top of that that's needed. And the main thing is that she's strong. She understands the condition that she's got and how to deal with it. And then as she gets older, she can make those choices herself. Once she becomes an adult, if she wants to eat a strict regime, that's her choice then, but it's not going to be forced upon her.
Brilliant.
Yeah. We have some interesting debates with the doctors and nurses, the diabetic specialists, because they're like, this could just be tweaked a little bit more, and you could just do this and that, and you're like, you're going to tell her, all her friends are having this and you don't have it. And I think that's the danger, that she's grown up just being as much as possible a normal kid.
Brilliant. Yeah. I sort of mentioned it a few times on the podcast, but I've seen it in my own missus, who has got a real issue with sweets, and when she's really stressed, she like really overdoes it on sweets. And it was when she was a kid. Her mum was really into numbers and sugar counts, and just obsessed with like artificial foods. And they used to go down the sweet aisle, and she'd get like a bag of sweets, and then every night she'd go, right, here's 5 sweets, but you can have 3 of them. So there was a huge restriction on like what she could have, how much, when she could have them. And it's just kind of developed as this really unhealthy relationship with sweets. And I'll get in a car and there'll be like sweet wrappers in the glove box and in the kind of cup holders, and they're everywhere, like in the coat pockets, because she has this moment where she's just stressed and she wants them. And I've seen that, and I don't ever want that for Harlow. I want to be able to like have what she wants with good guidance, and then she can make her own mind up, and we can educate her on why it's bad and why it's good, and but it's having the confidence to do that and the knowledge to do that, right? Because not a lot of people, even adults, know what they eat and why they eat them and what's actually good and bad and why they're good and bad. We know maybe McDonald's isn't great for us, but why? Who can sit down and tell us nutritionally why it isn't great?
What would be the worst case scenario then if your daughter just decided, do you know what, I'm going to eat that ice cream, I'm going to have a massive loaf of Tiger bread?
The big ones for her, in terms of from a blood sugar point of view, are the ones that you have to split ratio the carbs. So, like, if sweets are fine, because if she eats sweets, the sugar's taken into the bloodstream straight away, the insulin deals with it, and then she'll come back down. So people always say, like, oh, diabetics shouldn't have sweets. And well, yeah, you can, because it's just insulin that we're, I mean, from a health point of view, we don't want them all the time, but that's not a problem. It's things like if she has, like, a birthday cake, if she has a pizza, because anything that's got dairy in it will then slow the absorption rate and things like that. So pizzas, pastas, those sort of things, they're the sort of nightmare, because you might work out the meal and say, right, there's 150 grams here of carbs, and you have to make a guess of how many of them carbs are going to be absorbed in the next 2 hours, and then how many are then going to be from 2 to 6 hours after that. So you take a guess, and we always get it wrong. It's just like, and you'd think like, she could have the same meal the next day, and her blood sugars respond differently to it, because you don't know what activity she's done in that day. You don't know if she's excited or sad, and emotions, and all sorts of different things affect blood sugar. So it's every day is a new day the challenge starts again. And some days we have days where she's in range, she's level, and it's like a real win. And then, as I said to you before, we've just been away for Easter. So we've been out for food, she's had fish and chips, she's had a donut, and it's just like, oh, here we go, up and down, trying to correct and stuff like that. But I think you can't micromanage it. You can't focus too much on the minutiae of watching it all the time, because you would just go insane. You've got to just know that overall, she's, the specialists and the consultants are happy where she's at, and there's always that striving long term to get it as good as it can be, but enjoy life and don't hold back.
You mentioned before the podcast she wears like a little patch on her arm. Is that right?
So she has it's got a Dexcom G6, and my phone's down there, but that sends a ping to her phone and then to mine and mum's phone every 5 minutes. So we can track her blood sugar every 5 minutes throughout the day. That stays on for 10 days. We put alarms on there that if it goes above a certain number, it alarms, and if it goes below a certain number, it alarms. So then we can respond to it. So that negates the effect then for any finger pricks and things like that. So that's been a lifeline, really. It also shows you the errors as well. So she might be like our blood sugar should be between sort of like 4 and 7 in terms of millimoles. And she could be at 7, but if the arrow's like double arrowing up, it means that she's going to be going up soon. So you can so it gives you all that sort of help. And then the next stage then is she'll have an Omnipod on the other side rather than giving her needles, which will then just automatically adjust and correct. So if it senses that it's going up, it will start giving insulin.
How big's that on the arm? Is that
not too big. So it's just like about that thin. And like that size, so that's the Dexcom.
Okay.
The Omnipod is like a square.
Is that a daily thing you add
so
on?
It holds maybe 200 or 300 mils of insulin within the vial within it.
Okay.
And that lasts about 3 days. So 3 days, take it off, put another one on.
That is good.
And it works that way. So, and again, technology is getting better. So it
reminds me of the Zoe patches you can get now. I've got a few clients who are on those, and that's fascinating when they send over those metrics and data. And that's another just moving part of the puzzle, isn't it? Because every person reacts differently to different foods as well. So she's got her, obviously, the type 1 diabetes, and everything comes with that. But alongside that, there's specific foods that just for her, generally and genetically, will kind of spike her blood sugar more. And that's always a fascinating thing for clients to watch and see as well, and go through that process when they're on the Zoe stuff, and seeing which foods really agree with them, which don't, which ones are actually letting them gain fat. And what's your thoughts on Zoe? Is that something you've come across or had any questions on?
We've had some learners who've done very well and gone on and worked for. One of them was going to get involved with the nutrition side of us. I'm unsure at the moment in terms of, I'm not going to profess to be an expert on it. They're obviously investing. There's big money behind it, isn't there? So there must be something there. But I'm not totally up to speed in terms of where it's at. I hear counter arguments and things like that. So I'd have to look at a bit of research a little bit more. But
probably unknowingly there, Dave, I feel like you've spread quite a really good message for coaches who you qualify, because you're not an expert in it.
No.
You've just admitted that. You've just said, actually, I'm not too sure. I'd have to have a look at it. So many people can just learn from that rather than having an opinion on everything.
I think that's the thing. You've got to go away and look at the bigger picture. I mean, I don't really use social media. It's not a source that I would go to learn about anything that's sort of current. I'm an old-fashioned sort of look at research papers.
What's your go-to? Is there a website you go to for that kind of stuff? Or
no, not particular. I mean, research papers you can just find from anywhere, really, but they've got to be reputable, haven't they? And all that sort of thing. So if there's anything I want to know about, I'd want to know properly. And I think that's the thing from my education and doing a master's. how much I learned on a master's was a little bit more than a degree, but what it did learn you to do is just become a little bit more critical in terms of what you're looking at. Where's the research come from? Who's funded it? What's the message that they're trying to put through, and things like that. So you just become a little bit more objective that way, and not just listening to the hype and what somebody's saying is popular on social media.
Am I right in thinking you did one of the first sports science courses as well?
I was year one sports science at Sheffield Hallam in 1997. Wow. Yeah, and then straight on to masters afterwards. It's really annoying for everybody, but mine were free. Right. That was the last year to not pay. Wow. So, yeah.
Lucky bastard. Every time that tax, my accountant comes through and there's a little uni bill on there. I'm like, bloody uni, still biting in the ass.
I did my degree at Sheffield Hallam, and like I said, that was free. And then when I went to do my masters, that should have been 9,000 a year. They brought the fees in then.
Right.
But then because I was working at the university, they paid for it for me.
It's funny to kind of see where it's gone now. I mean, obviously they went crazy, and now obviously universities are really struggling, aren't they? Just because of different laws around international students. But
that's part of it. Yeah, part of it. Yeah.
Where do you see the future of that education going? Like just education in general?
Again, I think a lot of you need to see what Sheffield Hallam are doing. I think apprenticeships will become much bigger. I think the big thing in now is that, from my humble opinion, is that far too many degrees that what do they qualify you for? I've had family members who've done degrees and come out and just like, I don't know what to do with it. There's no job in that. Had a good time, understand how to learn and stuff like that. So there's some value in those sort of things. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily push my kids down a degree route. And I've gone through it myself. If they want to do something and I think it's going to lead to something, sure, go and do it. But I think earning while you're learning and doing apprenticeships and things like that seem a more sensible route now. So I think that would be much more. But that's a challenge, isn't it? It's finding something that... We were talking the other day about my daughter's really into coding. She likes that sort of stuff at school.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome until AI came out, and then there'll be no jobs in coding because really it's all going to be done. So we're evolving at a fast pace. So it's about choosing a career that you think you've got some... I was talking to Adam about it the other day, and I said, if I was going back now, I've loved what I've done, but I almost wish I'd had like 3 different careers. And that's what I would sort of suggest to my daughters now. You don't need to think about leaving school, college, and just doing one job. Do something that is going to be good for you and you can earn well and those sort of things. But if you get into your 30s and then you want to do something else, go retrain. I've always had that, would have liked to have done physiotherapy. I liked the armed forces. I wish I'd have done a bit of that or got into fire brigade. And I see people now that do stuff for so long and then change and do different careers. And I think we work for so long now. We should be open to that.
The armed forces one for me. I listen to a lot of podcasts with like armed forces people, and they talk about the missions. I was literally listening to one this morning, and I just think, oh, would I love to have done that? I'd love to have been like SBS, SAS, something like that. It was this plot was talking about going into like Iran, and like they were running up the banking and taking out these guys, and I was just like, that sounds so cool. If I was another life, that would have been me. But coming back to what you were saying about your daughter and like career paths, it's fascinating that they have to like almost think about the trajectory of AI now and pick a career where am I going to get a degree where AI is going to completely nullify that? That's a fascinating like foresight for a young person.
It'll never replace us, mate. No, AI is not going to get a
I can see AI and Brad out there now. 2.0.
All I'm thinking is AI is not going to forget how to count reps, is it?
I could do an AI to be a dad sometimes.
There you go, AI dad 3.0.
But I think it is. I think schools need to really think about it. Colleges, I think I'm sure universities are now and transitioning and looking that way. But I mean, there's things like being a lawyer and being a doctor and all those sort of things where AI is going to contribute, but it's not going to replace. But when you think of like manufacturing jobs and coding, anything in technology, then maybe you need to become an expert in understanding AI, I think. And
I think anything with like creativity or like personable skills, like I do see people float with the idea of like whether coaching and personal training will go down that avenue. But, you know, we know from experience people come to us because they want to vent. Sometimes, like, they might have literally this morning, a client going, great session on the weekend, but sorry I vented for like 45 minutes. But they like that. They come to you for that sometimes. And,
I think that'd be the difference. I think there's no doubt that AI can create great programs, almost like perfect programs, if you want to say that. It will get to that stage. But
and that'll help us out in our job.
That's right.
But
it's implementation, isn't it? It's the skill set of how you tweak that a little bit depending on how your client feels that day and what do you need to adapt, what conversations do you have. AI is not going to motivate anybody, is it? It's just going to do some of the work. So I think we'll be safe.
Yeah, they call the brain a black box, don't they? Saying like, we sort of know how it works, but it's just a black box, like we have no idea. There's an amazing podcast called Black Box from The Guardian that talks about when AI becomes a black box and you sort of get over this event horizon where there's no going back. Somebody will do something one day with AI and they'll go, oh shit.
Yeah.
And we just can't go back. And it'll become this black box that just thinks for itself and just enjoy things until that happens.
Well, Google created an AI. Did you hear about this one where they had to basically shut it down because it got so intelligent and there was two of these AIs interacting with each other. And they just did it as an experiment to kind of see where it would go, what would happen. And they were kind of monitoring it, I think, over about 18 months. And the reason they shut it down is because they realised they were being watched. And they realised people were tracking what they were doing. So they developed a new language that humans couldn't understand. And they kept it going for like maybe a few months. But when they couldn't crack the code, they realised we've probably got to shut this down because we don't actually know what they're up to. They could be talking about anything right now. And that, in my mind, I was like, oh shit, it's happening. Like right now. It's like there's things that could potentially get out of control if we're not careful.
But then the other side is a balance thing, isn't it, in terms of supporting with medical procedures, research on cancer and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You know that there's going to be so much good that could come from it. It's just who controls it. That's the question.
There was a brilliant YouTube video I watched the other day by a guy who does a lot of like traveling around kind of China, Southeast Asia, and he did this episode in Japan, and they were talking about AI over there. And he was kind of posing this question of, do you think AI is going to be a problem? And they're very big on tech in Japan. Everything's like, you know, they're really like, they kind of appreciate it more than we do. And he was like, I can't ever see it being a bad thing. And the guy in the YouTube video was like, but over here, we've got this kind of apocalyptic idea that eventually it's going to take over, it's going to be horrible. And they were like, no, we don't share those same views. And they just don't have that same pessimistic attitude towards AI that we do. They're really embracing it. And I think maybe we should be more like that. Like I think we always think worst case scenario over here, don't we?
We don't.
Or maybe they're just really naive, Ryan. They're just really naive.
Japan's going first. If AI said anyway, Japan.
Let's get a swamp there first. Sticking about the topic of the future, where would you say Envisage is going in the next couple of years, couple of decades?
I would like to broaden our offer. So, you know, our bread and butter is gym PT and the massage and all those sort of things, but like we've talked about the menopause course that's coming out, I think things like that just will offer a new skill set for people, better understanding. So there's a level 4 personal trainer that's coming out that's sort of a bit more hands-on and functional, therapy side of things. And then I think into some of the level 4s, like, you know, cancer care, COPD, lower back pain, all those sort of different areas.
Pelvic floor.
Yeah, musculoskeletal.
We had a pelvic floor expert on recently, and she was really passionate about that.
Yeah, it was great. It was really good. I said to Adam, I was really pleased actually, because some of the examples that she talked about, the things that we talk about on the course.
Great.
So having listening to her.
She hasn't done your course, has she?
No, she doesn't know, but I mean, I'm being set up to meet her soon, because the lady who's teaching our menopause course, Dr. Anna Lowe, Rasheen was her student.
Fantastic.
At university. So they've got a relationship, and Anna sort of said, if you want to do a specialist unit on pelvic floor, I'd recommend you go see her. So she was on my list to see, and then I was just listening to one of your episodes, and she came on. I was like, oh, that's a nice introduction. So
that doesn't surprise me at all, because we learned a ton on that episode. We really did, and she kind of described it in a way that was really like, basic for us, which was needed.
It was fun as well.
It was fun.
It was
fun.
fun.
She came in with like a little vagina pendant, and I thought it was straight away like this. She's cool. I like her.
She's going to be comfortable talking about stuff, isn't she? And I think for a lot of people, I think that's the hard thing in terms of the menopause course, is how do you ask the questions in the right way? I think there's an obvious advantage female to female in terms of like being able to ask some of those more uncomfortable questions about where you're at with your menopause and what sort of things can we put into the program that are going to help with that. But it's a little bit different for men asking those questions. So I think that's a skill set that will take some time to develop and the way you can do it. But it's just such an important area for anybody who's in that sort of, I don't know, maybe as early onset, late 30s to right through to late 50s, then you've got a whole market there that have got specific requirements and needs in terms of training.
I just love how Sheffield and South Yorkshire is just like one big village, and it's just like anyone who's worth knowing, it's like, yeah, we can recommend this person. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. There's a lot to be said about the collaborative aspect in there.
There is.
100%. Dave, have you got a favourite course that you deliver?
Always loved teaching the children's health and fitness. That was my area for a long time. And we are going to get back into doing that again. We're getting a lot of people asking for the course again. I always enjoyed that side, adapting training for children and looking at strength and conditioning for children and myth busting and all that sort of stuff. Myself personally, the best course that I've done was probably the sports therapy. I really enjoyed learning soft tissue dysfunction, how that affects movement and training and all those sort of things. So yeah, I got a lot from doing that course and then the menopause one now. But yeah, my favourite one to teach was the children, just because you get to act like a kid, don't you? And play games and activities. And
So do people bring their kids down for the course, or
so
how does that work?
So you used to teach everything, but you'd have like adults doing the course, and we'd all have to role play being kids.
I love that. Amazing.
So
gummies and bottles out like there you go.
So you do that, but then for the actual assessment, they would then have to set up a session either in a school or youth club or whatever it would be, and then we'd go and observe the session there. And a lot of it is built around sort of circuit training and those sort of things that are easily to sort of manage as a group session. So
that's brilliant. Right up my street, that, because she's at the age now, Harlow, where we're doing like some kettlebell deadlifts, and I do some of these like high rocks events, and we've had like little high rocks circuits downstairs, burpees and things like that, which is cool. But just to see her in the gym environment and being like really open to new things as well, which is good. It doesn't have to be like prams and toys at that age. You can get them doing stuff that we do and get them comfortable with weights and dumbbells.
It's just exposing children at a young age to as many different things as possible and seeing what they like. I mean, that's certainly why I think I do what I did. When I turned 11 and I went to comp, or whatever you call it now, secondary school, my form teacher was a PE teacher and our classroom was the gym. So every morning for registration, we used to win for half an hour, and he'd be like, he'd do what needed to do, he'd take the register, tell you a few things, and he'd say, just go and train. So from the age of 11, and I think back now that whenever he was out of the room, we were just trying to stack as much weight as possible and doing everything wrong. But certainly from that age, I then became very comfortable in that environment and just wanted to do more and more. If I'd have not been in that class, maybe I wouldn't have done what I'm doing now. So it's certainly just exposing yourself to different environments.
That's literally, even if she did nothing, just watched me do it. That's the exposure she needs at that age. And she's only 2, so she's so young. But I think that probably comes off the back of coaching so many people who get to the late 30s, mid 40s, and they've never pushed their body, never been involved in the gym environment, never been in sports teams. And it's really sad, actually. I think that it really is quite disheartening to know they've never been, they've not had the enjoyment from like experiencing what their body can do and be capable. Because we all know like the endorphin rush you get and have that sense of achievement when you kind of get the bench press PB or big deadlift.
I just think there's a lot of pressure now, isn't there, that what people see in terms of like, they think you've got to be super fit to go. Everybody's like social media and posing and look at this workout and all these sort of things, when I think actually for the majority of people it's quite simple, isn't it? You turn up, you do a bit of a workout, nobody really cares what you're doing, and you get on with it. But I think there's that perception now that it's not like that, and that's the sort of barriers we need to sort. And I think again that's a great thing now that a lot of PTs are doing like home visits, home workouts, come to my garage, do a little workout here, and I think that just helps to break down all these barriers.
Private studios are great for like learning and just getting comfortable in that environment. And I get a lot of people coming here just simply for that reason, because they don't want the big commercial gym. And the big change from like 10 years ago is, maybe it's kind of because I'm older, I'm coaching maybe slightly older people, but gym anxiety is a big thing now. I never had anyone coming to me 10 years ago and saying, like, I've got really bad anxiety in the gym, I don't want to go. That was just, it was never really a thing. But as I feel maybe social media nowadays, with that pressure, like you said, of having to look and perform a certain way. I was having a great chat actually with Connor in the gym yesterday, and he was talking about how some of the pressures on men now are much greater than women. Because women have these pressures of like looking beautiful and yes, being in shape, but it's more of a beauty aspect. Whereas the pressures on men to be like muscular and manly and perform well, that stuff takes actually a lot longer usually than might drop in body fat, doesn't it? And we know that body fat comes off quicker than it takes to build muscle. So you're locked in for like a good few years, and a lot of guys, when they don't achieve that, they have this sense of like, I'm not good enough, and maybe the gym anxiety kind of gets heightened as a result of that. But I think body image now is way more of a concern. Do you get concerned about that with like your kids as well? Like,
well, not so much my kids.
She's 12. She's 12 now.
One's 12, one's 15, and there is, you can. I think most kids, compare themselves to others, and this is what they're told the norms are and stuff like that. But again, it's about good parenting and restricting what they're allowed to watch and see too much, and those you've got to make hard decisions and stuff. But we certainly see it on courses now. People are much more open about talking about their experiences and things, but generally on courses now we can get up to half that have got mental health sort of issues, and exercise has helped with it, and that's why they want to get into it and those sort of things. But you talked about anxiety and stuff. I think most people now are dealing with levels of that just seem to be different to what we had 20 years ago.
Is it the fact that it's being diagnosed quicker now, or is it the fact that it's actually more of an issue? That's something in my mind I've thought about quite a lot and not really come to much conclusion on.
Yeah, there's a great book called The Anxious Generation that I've just read. Again, that's mainly looking at kids, but there's definitely a pattern as what they've established from one development of smartphone, but coinciding with Instagram and the sort of prominence of taking selfies, teenage anxiety levels, depression, suicide rates, all the data sort of goes back to that point. That's where things started to really increase. So from a children's point of view, I think that's why everything in the media now is about, do we need to restrict phone use? Do we need to stop it in schools to protect children going forward? But we're getting people in their 30s and 40s who are coming on with similar sort of things. So I don't think it's a simple...
But it affects us all, right? It doesn't just affect teenagers. Social media affects everyone. Did you watch that documentary on Netflix, Adolescence?
Yeah.
Amazing. Fascinating to kind of watch that unfold, and amazingly well done from a director's point of view. But that talked about kind of some really key issues that are being filtered into schools now. And the guy who directed that actually campaigned recently in schools for us to do the same as what Australia have done, where they've limited it at 16. Like, you can only have a social media account at 16. Do you think that's the right move? Do you think we should be doing that?
It's from a sort of like a sensible point of view and the long-term health, I would say yeah. But I think, even alluded to it in the programme a little bit, just to take that away now for the kids that have grown up with it, that is their norm, that is their network. They don't do what we used to do and just go and hang out and call for your mate, and will
there be some social repercussions?
There will be some, because it's just a completely different generation now. They use it for everything. So, as a parent, I've taken my phone off kids when I think that they're on it too much, and I'm then the worst dad in the world, and all my friends think you're horrible and all this sort of stuff, because it immediately isolates them from everything else that's going on. So it's a difficult one to sort of answer. But I think there needs to be some limits and controls. I think certainly banning it in school would be a huge benefit. So that straight away. But it's funny when the program came on and you see what the kids are like in school, and I was just like, oh, this is just like done for TV. And then my wife, who works in the school, were just like, yeah, that's pretty much what it's like. Kids do swear at teachers, they don't fear them. And I was like, really?
I'd say of all the whole episode, one of the things that stuck out to me was exactly that same thing. Was like, wow, is this what schools are like nowadays? Like, when I mean, I remember it being a bit of a ruckus like in some classes when I was a kid, but it did seem like nuts in some sessions, and I was like, how much is getting learnt in these schools? Is it? And that does kind of bring you back to the question of, is it worth sending these kids to schools if there's now, I mean, literally down the road here, when was it, 3-4 months ago, kid stabbed, died. Like, and that's now a kind of catchment area for our daughter. I'm immediately thinking, is it worth it? Like, is this issue only going to get worse? And
could happen anywhere, couldn't it? And
it could.
I feel sorry for the schools, really, because you know, the school that my daughters go to, they have lots of safety things in place and trying to limit what happens, but they don't seem to be able to stop it. There's, you know, they don't have the backing from government, I don't think, in terms of, you can't just like tell kids they can't come to school anymore. They seem to be able to, they have to find a way of still keeping them in. And I think the kids know this. They know that there's no sort of consequence for what they're doing. I've been in and seen kids speak to the head teacher, and I was like cringing. I was just like, well, you know, when the head teacher walked in my school, we had to stand up in class, and then he'd say sit down, and there was sort of like a learn respect sort of thing, and I think that's been blurred a little bit now. It's
I think the kids know they've got a bit more power. I think they do. Which, you know, give them an inch, they'll take a mile, won't they?
I mean, like I said, when I was at school, teacher walked out of the room, we were stacking. We know we shouldn't have done it, but that's children, isn't it? It's you're pushing boundaries all the time, but if the boundaries are not there, then
I remember, in high school, there was some teachers I genuinely feared. I would hate to get a bollocking off. And
I don't think there is that now.
No, I don't. I can't. I mean, I can't speak because I don't know. I'm not in schools. I've not got any kids in those schools. Even my friends don't have teenagers, so I don't know. But from the kind of people that I talk to who are of that age, there does seem like a respect. And I noticed this a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I noticed that some of the teenagers that I would coach, their social skills weren't as good. They weren't like as, I don't know, just like not even like mischievous. Like I want them to be like a bit mischievous in class or in my sessions, and like ask questions and be a bit stupid. Like they were just a bit muted, and like they'd find an excuse to be on the phone. Or one girl, we used to like love sending Snapchats, so she'd be like talking to me as she's sending the Snapchat, and I had to like ban the phone in the session. And I said to her, Mum, I'm sorry, like it's becoming an issue. She's not listening to me. I'm happy for her on a break to take a rest and sit down, but during that time, we can't have the phones out because it's becoming an issue now. Yeah,
it is. That's how they communicate, don't they? It's through Snapchat and all these sort of things.
But is that, again, you know, because there's so much communication online, is that affecting like confidence levels and communication skills? And I definitely have noticed it more. But
I think so. But I think I said to my girls, it's an opportunity to stand out. If you really nail these skills, then going forward, employers are going to be like, wow, you know, you can speak, you're confident.
That's a great point.
So you just got to take it as an opportunity. But I think, it is. But jobs will be different, won't they? You know, they'll maybe work from home and they don't communicate as much. So it's hard to get a grasp on where it is and what's right and wrong.
I always think this for like Ted and Harlow's generation, like what are their careers going to look like in 15, 20 years' time? No idea.
I always think about that movie, Wall-E. Have you seen Wall-E? Where they get there's that spaceship where they're all on those little pods and they're all massively overweight. And I always think that's like where we're all going to head eventually. no one's going to have a job. We have to leave Earth. Wall-E's going to be down there sorting it all out.
I sort of agree.
Just hard reset.
I've just got this idea that that's eventually like the end goal. And I think that's because when I was a kid, you look at that and you're like, oh, it's rubbish. But it is an image in your mind that as the world evolves, you think, no, actually, I can see us doing that. I really can. Elon Musk is going to get us a spaceship and we're going to be on Mars. All massively overweight, but... How do we get to that? I don't know.
that took a bit of a pivot.
That's like an Envisage course. It's just like these conversations. That's not on the syllabus, by the way.
Exactly.
Oh, I mean, Dave, you've been amazingly generous with your time so far. Have you got any final questions for Dave?
No, I've unloaded everything, mate. Thank you for being so candid and open, honest with your answers. It's been awesome. Thank you, mate.
No, you're welcome.
I thought I'd throw a bit of a staple question at you, Dave. We threw this to Lee Bell, and I thought he answered it quite well.
Okay. Oh, God. Living up to Lee Bell.
3 words to describe your parenting experience so far. Feel free to have a minute with this one as well.
So, rewarding. My girl's a little bit older. I know we were talking before about seeing the kids stuff in here. Now, it took me back to when my kids were that age, and you always have that fear of, like, oh, we're going to lose this. But what I can tell you is, like, every stage is enjoyable in that they're then doing something new, and so it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm looking forward now to seeing what choices they're going to make and relationships they make and stuff like that. So rewarding would be one. It's been great. Challenging would be another. There's no preparation for it, is there? No. There's no course to go and do. We largely just make it up.
Envisage, there we go. that was the next one.
Parenting course.
So rewarding, challenging. Third word.
This is when we test that 4 hours sleep that we've had, Dave.
Yeah, challenging, rewarding. Yeah, I'm just trying to balance it up a little bit. Like the rewarding, fun. Just had so much fun, to be honest. Creating memories, holidays, time away, holiday seasons. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. Rewarding, fun, but there's some challenge in there as well. Be prepared, you'll not always be popular. Yeah.
I'm not popular now, mate, so I've got no hope.
Yeah. I remember my eldest daughter came home, and after one occasion we banned her phone for 3 weeks because she'd been on social media, and we'd told her to get her screen time down.
Okay.
And she's smart, my eldest daughter. So what she'd done is come and shown me that she'd got her screen time down, and she said, "Can I have it back?" But then I picked up a laptop and realised that she'd just downloaded all the apps on a laptop. And was doing the same stuff in a room, not knowing. So she took off for 3 weeks, and her and her friends came back to the house one day, and one of her friends just came out and said, "We've had a vote at school, and we've voted that you and Deb are the strictest parents in the whole school." And I just took that as a bit of a badge.
Yeah, I'd actually get a badge printed up every time they come over. Strict dad.
That's birthday card sorted forever. World's strictest dad. Thank you.
So
I think for me, when I hear that though, I think that's a parent who's doing it right. It's a parent who cares. It's a parent who actually isn't like, it's too much hard work to take the phone off them. It's going to cause too much of a disruption. I don't want it to fall out of me. I'm just going to let her have it. You're a parent who cares and actually wants to make some changes.
Just basics like, when you're having food, you're not on your phone and your laptop, you talk. We were away this weekend and we went to a restaurant, and we just had that moment where we said, look around, and you'd got like young kids on iPads because it keeps them occupied, and parents and older kids were just on phones, and literally nobody in the restaurant was talking. They're all just in their own things, whereas we don't do that. We're old school.
I really want to have that, and I think there's nothing wrong with in a moment of like, right, it's a complete meltdown, let's try and just kind of subside that a little bit, but it can't become like the only thing you do. And I think as they get older, they understand that more, and it's really important you reinforce that.
My eldest daughter has said that to me. She said, "I'm glad you did what you did," because she's got a balance with it now.
And she probably sees it in her friends, like when she's talking to her friends, and they'll be on her phone, and she can't get a conversation out of them, and she'll notice that now at her age, for sure. France actually had this, I've got a friend who lives in Paris, and went to visit them last year, and I was sat on the sofa, and his little boy came over, and I'd just gone onto social media for a second just to kind of a little scroll. And as I turned on, he was over my shoulder, and I was watching this little video, and he was like that. And I was like, "You okay?" He goes, "Yeah." And he was just like looking at my phone, and he was obsessed. I was like, "This is a bit strange." And I looked up at Sam, and he goes, "Oh, it's because in in France, there's a real initiative now to have no screens before 3 p.m. So they're not on any in the morning, and it has to be all after 3 p.m. So this is at like 1 in the afternoon. He was like, he'll be gagging for some screen time now.
Yeah.
But I thought, what a great initiative that is by the country to like, and it's all over the adverts on TV and things like that. Like try and really push no screen time before 3 p.m. So.
The irony of having it on screens to advertise.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. Again, another tangent. Not sure where I was going with that.
No, I appreciate
the beauty
it.
of the podcast.
We all appreciate
It's just become a bit of a parenting podcast.
This is it. I mean, Dave, if anyone wants to check out the amazing work you do at Envisage, where can they find you?
So website envisagetraining.co.uk. All the stuff on there, but we've also got Instagram and Facebook, things like that you can easily find us. I should know more, but as you can see, I'm not Adam does all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you can find all that stuff on there, and we always just welcome having a chat. You know, there's no pressure. We meet people for coffee. We talk about what you want to do, and if you're interested, then we can talk about options and things like that.
What would you say to anyone who's got splinters from sat on the fence being like, I might do it, I might not? What would you say to them?
Yeah, just come and have a chat with us. We've got a permanent facility now at the English Institute of Sport. The gyms are all being redone this summer, so we're going to have a state-of-the-art new facilities. We've got a permanent classroom. It's a great learning environment. We've got world-class athletes in the area. Who are training, and we can just watch, and you just soak up all that atmosphere. It just feels like a real buzz to be there. And our feedback is that pretty much 100% love the course, love the experience. If you're into it, I can pretty much say that you'll not be disappointed. You'll learn, but you will enjoy it at the same time. Come and have a go. I think the big thing for us as well is that we're one of the few companies that has student loan available. So from a financial point of view, you can get your fees paid for, then you can pay that back over time. It's low risk and things like that. So we have got ways to, whether you want to pay for it, whether you want to do it on payment plan, whether you want to do a student loan.
I'm not sure if it's still available, but there was some funding when I got mine done, because I basically left my job at Meadowall, and I was kind of starting coaching a few people I knew as I was kind of doing the qualification. And Adam said, because you're unemployed technically now, you can get it through that.
We don't have the contract direct for that, but we have the centres in Sheffield who we'll liaise with. So like Sheffield City Council have a contract for it. And if you go and see them, if you're unemployed and this is what you want to do, they'll refer you to us to do the course and they'll pay for it. Oh. So there's that means as well. And then every now and again, we get funding contracts that come out for the region. We've gone about 2 or 3 years now without one. There is one that might be coming up. And if it does, it'll be a similar sort of thing. Either if you've not trained at level 3 before, you can get it for free. If you're unemployed, you can get it for free. Or if you have done, you get it at half price. So there are different means. So we'll be applying for that one in the summer. And fingers crossed we have that. And then that'll be for the sort of South Yorkshire region.
But yeah, I mean, when I met Adam, he actually met me on Fargate at Costa, and we just had a little coffee and a sit down.
Yeah.
And he talked me through all the options. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought, it almost seemed too good to be true. I actually thought it was like, this is such a good service. He's probably conning me. There's something not quite right. This is too good. He's come out of his way to meet me in Sheffield, and we sat down, had a coffee for a good 20-30 minutes. And
we've had some people when we've had those contracts, and we'll say, so we've done all this, you've got these 3 courses and it's free. And they're like, yeah, but when do I pay it back? And we're like, no, it's free. And they're like, I think I'm just going to pay for it. I don't believe in this. And you're like, no, you don't. You don't have to pay for it.
Exactly. Honestly, that was exactly my thought. I was like, it can't be that good.
No.
It's too good. Too good to be true. And my dad always told me, it's too good to be true. It normally is. But this actually wasn't.
No, it's nice when it comes along. I mean, because of the economy and stuff like that, there's less of it.
Right.
We're not in as good a place, and they're having to be a little bit more selective about what they fund now. But we're in a good position to get these contracts, and if we do, we'll advertise them on the website and social media so that people will know about them.
Cool. But look, if you end up paying for it, like we've said, it's well worth it for sure. And that was another thing as to why I thought it was too good to be true, because I got onto the course, I was like, this is absolutely unbelievable. So, mate, awesome. Really good.
Stuff.
End it there.
Let's go for it.
Dave, awesome. Thank you for coming down
today,
mate.
Thank you very much.
Really good.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll see you guys next one.
See you soon.